Wow. Like it's a big surprise. But the truth of the matter is, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. The truth of the matter is that it is a big surprise because it still amazes me that we managed to get all of this technology down, that we managed to get it all sorted out. So first of all, good morning to all of you. I'd like first of all to say good morning to my spirit guide Gregor, who as always is standing to my right side. And excuse me, sorry, I'd also like to say good morning to Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, golly, I can hear you, Chris, so clearly. And just for everybody out there, Chris, do you want to tell everybody why I can hear you this clearly?
I have a brand new set of headphones with a little microphone attachment to it.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it? We thought it was the Restream that we use. We couldn't figure it out. And then Chris had this bright idea, maybe it's my headphones. So, it's the little things. You can see why I'm absolutely shocked and surprised every time we go live and it seems to be working, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
All right. So, yes, it's Saturday morning. How just don't know how it comes around again, so really, really fast. But it does. And for those of you who saw my little heads up about an hour or so ago, I talked to you about the subject of my story today being the future. And this was prompted, telling the story this morning was actually prompted by somebody who asked on the show on Thursday morning, when a medium sees the future, talks about the future or tells you what your future is going to be, is it truly something that the medium can see? I'm sort of couching this question probably a little bit differently than how it was put to me, but or is it self-fulfilling, which means does somebody like myself put the idea of something into somebody else's head, and then that someone else sort of in some unknown way sort of travel towards the destiny that has been put into their head rather than the destiny that has been planned way before we all knew about it? I hope I'm making myself clear here. Did I make myself clear there, Chris?
Yes.
Right. So self-fulfilling prophecy, or can mediums really and truly see into the future? So here we go then. Once upon a time, as all good stories must begin, and you all know that I start with that. So once upon a time, so many years ago, even before we were able to tell the sex of a baby prior to its birth, before we had all this in vitro stuff going on. Yes, I truly am that old, but before all of these things that we can now predict, because we have the machines and we have the technology to be able to predict these things and to know what we're about, people would ask me all the time, you know, if my wife is pregnant or I'm pregnant, or if I have a baby, you know, what sex will it be? Will it be a boy? Will it be a girl? And so on and so forth. And I always used to make sure that I never told. When I was carrying my daughter, of course, there was no technology to help me to let me know which it would be. I'm not even sure that I would necessarily use that technology. But anyway, I always made a point of saying to people, I will never tell. Because I always felt that the surprise and the joy is all part of the having a baby thing. Anyway, nowadays it's very different, isn't it? So I had a friend, Brian. He was one of my students, and his wife was pregnant for, I think it was the third time or something. And he was persistent. I'll give him that. He was really persistent. Every time I saw him, which was at least once a week, every time I saw him, he'd say to me, okay, can you please just tell me what the sex of the baby is. Just tell me what the sex of the baby is. And on and on and on he would go. And I would say to him, Brian, you can ask me 12 times, 24 times, and I'm not going to tell you. It was a thing, you know, it was just a thing. Anyway, one night he came, and it was a class night, and he would come and sit with me in what we used to call then as the development group, and he came early. And I was really, really busy, and I was so involved in whatever it was. It was some kind of paperwork. And I remember sitting at the dining room table, and I'm really busy. And he asked me again, and I said, I'm not telling you. And he asked me, and he kept pounding away. And in the end, I think I just really just lost patience. And I just looked at him dead in the eye. It's a boy, I said to him. And he said, well, you know, what date? I can't remember what date I gave him. I gave him the date and what time, and I gave him the time. So out of frustration, because he would not leave it alone, I gave him all this information. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, the baby was born the same day, the same time, and so on and so forth. But I was kicking myself because I never used to do that sort of thing. Now, you know, did I tell the future? Did I foresee the future? Or did I somehow read Brian's mind? Was he told by the doctors that, you know, that the baby would be born on this day? Did he have some sort of instinctual thing himself that it would be a boy? Did I really tell him the truth, or was it just a fluke of some kind, right? So we can put it down to being a fluke. And that's exactly what we should do, because just because somebody tells you something's going to happen doesn't mean that it is going to happen. And self-fulfilling prophecies, there are those things that happen because somebody told you they were going to happen. For instance, you tell a man he has 3 months to live, you can guarantee. The doctor tells a man he's going to have 3 months to live, you can guarantee. Unless that man is strong and says, no way, and I'm going to fight it, usually within 3 months of being told that, you know, this is, you know, you've got 3 months, usually it happens. And is that a self-fulfilling prophecy? I think in a way it's about giving up, and if I've only got 3 months, I'm going to make the most of it. But in a way, it does, for some people, become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm sort of giving I'm giving you the background to my real story here. But anyway, it's all part of the story, and it's all part of me telling the story, which is the uppermost in my mind. But as I was talking to Chris before we started the show this morning, she said to me, what story are you telling today? And I was explaining to her about the future, and is it real or isn't it, and so on. And she reminded me of another story. So I'm going to give you 2 quick stories here. So the first was that, so many years ago, my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, sat with me, and he told me that I was going to move, to America. And I lived in England at the time. I was going to move to America. And then he began to tell me and to describe to me the house that I was going to move to. And he described it in so much detail that I actually drew this. I drew 2 sort of small lakes. I drew a house sitting up on a sort of like a cliff. I described the mountains in the background, the trees in the background in front of the mountains. I described everything. He described every single thing to me. And then he told me that when I moved to this place, that certain other things were going to happen. But the description of this place was so clear that I drew it all out. And then for some reason or another, I put a date on the top. Never thought anything more about it. 5 years later, now, believe me or believe me not, I'd forgotten all about this. I'd forgotten all about the drawing. I'd forgotten about everything. More than 5 years later, I'm now in America, and the things that Grey Eagle has told me are happening. But the property that he described to me, I didn't even think about it. I wasn't even looking for a house at the time. And then you might say that I stumbled on it. And I did truly stumble on it because I was just driving around the area, just driving around looking, and I'm thinking, I suddenly stopped in the middle of the street. I was on my own. It was sort of up, halfway up into the mountains. And I'm sitting there, and there's no for sale signs. There's no houses really, just this one house sort of in the background there. No for sale sign. There's no indication that it's for sale. And I can remember sort of sitting in the car, looking out and thinking how peaceful it was and how beautiful it was, and thinking, you know, yeah, I could live here. Now, I had a date with the real estate guy the next day, and he took me all over the place, and none of the houses seemed right. And all of a sudden, I found him taking me up this road that I'd travelled up the day before by myself, and pulling into the driveway of the house I'd sat outside of. And I looked at him, I said, "Is this for sale?" There's no for sale sign. No, there isn't. Long story very short, he takes me through the property. We walk from the front of the house to the back, and I cannot believe my eyes. Two small lakes, mountains in the background, trees in front of the mountains, and so on and so forth, and the house sort of standing up on this hillside, overlooking everything. And it suddenly hits me. So I go home, and I pick up the phone and I call my assistant, who was then in England, and I said to her, "Can you go into the filing cabinet?" And I tell her exactly where to go, and I say, "There's a drawing in there, and there's a date on it. Could you just, you know, hold that out for me? And can you fax it over to me, because I want to be absolutely clear as to what I'm seeing." And she found the drawing and she faxed it over to me, and you could literally hold up the drawing, and you could then literally put it against the view of the house, and it was the same view. It was exactly the same. Was it preordained, or did I see the house and somehow or another in my subconscious did I think, oh, this is just like the house that Grey Eagle described? You know, was it self-fulfilling? I'll have this one because this is the closest I've seen that comes to Grey Eagle's drawings. So was it that Grey Eagle predicted that I would get this house, which I did eventually buy, or was it a self-fulfilling prophecy? It leads you to think it could be one, or it literally could be another. Have I been looking for a house, something similar to the one that Grey Eagle described? It was quite uncanny. The description was exactly in the most minute detail the way that Grey Eagle had described it, but still, you know, maybe this was something that was the closest to what he told me I would find, and therefore I went out and bought it. You can understand why I'm saying this, I'm sure, because, you know, really, is it honestly really possible to see into the future? Is it really possible to actually know what is around the corner, or what is 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, or sometimes even 10 years from now? Is it actually possible that we see these things? And so, being the most skeptical person you would ever wish to meet, especially in the realm of spirituality and the stuff that we do, I am more skeptical than anybody you care to know. I have to go with, well, it's very likely that it was self-fulfilling, but at the same time, I'm sort of like a little bit awed that Grey Eagle should describe this to me. So I'm not sure which way I'm going, so I'm still on the fence. Can we really see the future? Now, don't misunderstand me. Over the years, over the many, many years that I've been doing this, I have seen the future events and future happenings for people. I've seen and heard about future events for the world in general. I remember Grey Eagle telling me as I was in my laundry room with my head in the washing machine pulling out my laundry. I can remember him whispering to me about a plane that was going to crash, and sure enough, the next day came on the news, this particular plane did crash and all the passengers were killed and so on. I've experienced it. I've experienced, being able to tell a friend, I can see your car parked at the side of the road with a flat tire, when I knew she was going on a long journey. So check the car out, check the tires out. Her husband, being a car mechanic, was able to do all of that. And yet still, a few days later when she went on her journey, she found the car, having taken all precautions, found the car at the side of the road with a flat tire. On and on it goes. Sometimes it's possible to see things that are happening in the future that are really sort of important world events, and sometimes it's the little things, silly things that don't make a difference to anyone, like the flat tire. They don't make a difference to anyone, but does it actually tell us that the spirit world does see, or does it actually tell us that there is a way to tell the future? Does it actually tell us that our lives are preordained? Or, as I like to think, does it tell us that there are certain things in our lives that are preordained, but that we do have a choice about lots of other things? So now here we come to me. And my daughter was wanting a baby and couldn't have a baby, and ended up through lots of different health issues, an ectopic pregnancy that blew one fallopian tube out and destroyed it. The fact that when she went in for some surgeries, they found that the other fallopian tube was born deformed, so she couldn't have babies in the natural way. There was no way that her eggs would manage to get where they needed to go. Luckily, though, in vitro and all of those special things that we're able to do today for women who want babies but can't have them naturally, she actually decided at some point that she would have to go for in vitro, and her doctor advised her, if you want a baby, this is going to be the only way to have a baby. So obviously she's asking me continually, Mom, what will happen? Will it happen? Am I going to have a baby? On and on and on and on it goes. And I would say yes to her every time. So against all the odds, yes, she was going to have a baby. And sure enough, she got pregnant. And then, of course, now the other questions came. Just like my friend Brian, I told you about in the beginning. When will it be born? What date will it be born? Will it be a boy? Will it be a girl? This is before she even had the scan to tell her what it would be, and on it went. And when she first came to look at this apartment, she called me up and she said, the strangest thing happened, Mum. I was looking at the apartment, it was completely empty, and I saw a little boy just run across the room and then disappear. And I smiled, because I have known for more years than I can count. My grandson is 7 years old, and way before he was even a twinkle, it was ordained that he would be born. I was told about it so many years ago. But now it comes to, okay, what's going to happen? What will be the date? What will be this? What will be that? And my daughter is, probably more determined to have me answer these questions than most other people. So the day before she went for her scan to see what sex the baby was going to be, I flew in from Florida to be with her, because I wanted to be there. And we laid in bed that night. We were having a cuddle, and she looked at me and she said, Mama, just tell me, please, just tell me, is it going to be a boy or is it going to be a girl? A little bit of a test, I think, from my daughter, to see if I really knew what I was about. And I said to her, you'll find out tomorrow. Wait until tomorrow. She said, but I really want you to tell me. So I said, all right, it's a boy. All of you out there are thinking, well, you've got 50-50 chance, haven't you? And of course, I've got a 50-50 chance. So I said, it'll be a boy. Well, how do you know? And who told you? So I talked to her about who told me. I'd talked to my father, and I talked to Grey Eagle, and sure enough, the next day she went for the scan and it was a boy. And again, 50-50 chance, really. Until we got a little closer And then she started having some health issues with the pregnancy. And now it was when, what date, what this, what that. So I gave her the date, which was the 12th of February. And I said, it's going to be the 12th. I gave her that way before, when she first got pregnant. Look for the 12th, look for the 12th of February. So that was fine until now she's taken into hospital. They're giving her tests and things, and she's lying there. And the baby's not due for at least another couple of weeks. And she says to me, so Mum, she says, and she's lying there with the machines, and I'm sitting with her in the hospital. Because again, I'd flown in because I knew when the baby was going to be born, I wanted to be there. So Mum, she says, just tell me the date. I said, how many times do you need me to tell you? I've told you the 12th. She said, but that's tomorrow. And I said, really? She said, yes, it's tomorrow. And she wasn't due for another 2 weeks. She said, I'm not ready. And I laughed because prior to us leaving the apartment to go for this hospital checkup that she was with, I'd said to her before we left, you need to take a suitcase, pack a little suitcase, because you'll need a suitcase. Don't be ridiculous, Mum. I'm not due for another 2 weeks. I said to her, Samantha, listen to me, pack a suitcase. She said, Mum, you're being silly. No, this is New York City. Unless the baby's ready to drop, nobody's interested. So I told her a third time, Samantha, you do need to take a suitcase. Take some toothpaste with you. Take a little nightie or something with you. You need to take a suitcase. And again, she sort of brushed me off. Third time rule, if I tell you once, pay attention. If I tell you twice, really pay attention. If I tell you 3 times, you better really, really be listening. But my daughter was not listening. She was rushing. We were rushing out of the door. So, of course, she's laying on the bed and I say the 12th and she says, but that's tomorrow. And I said, yes, it is, darling. It's tomorrow. I'm not ready, she cries. I'm not ready. I can't have it tomorrow. At that point, the door opens, the nurse comes in and says to us, we need to go upstairs because we've got 1 or 2 little issues, 1 or 2 little problems, and you've guessed it, right? Okay, so now she's put to bed, she's got eclampsia, she's not doing really well, she's having a real struggle with things, and the next morning, I stay with her all night long. The next morning, the doctor comes in and says, we think we're going to, try to break your waters. That did not work. And then the baby was in distress. We're going to give you a cesarean sometime today. And the doctor walked out. And my daughter looks at me and she starts crying. She says, fine, you were right. Almost as if that was a big problem. And she says, fine, you were right, fine. What time? Morning or afternoon? And I looked at her and I said, morning. Fine, she said, what time? And I told her the exact time, to the minute, really to the second, that the baby was going to be born. Now, you can argue this all your life. A self-fulfilling prophecy? No, because this is completely out of your hands. You're reliant on the hospital, you're reliant on their schedule, you're relying on the doctors, you're relying on the people who have to gather together in the, to do the surgery. Not at all a self-fulfilling thing. It's got nothing to do with you at all. And sure enough, at the exact time, exact to the second, they did the cesarean. When they opened her up, Reese was lying on his back, face up, and he had the cord around his neck. So thank goodness they could not have induced her. Otherwise, they would have had a real problem. So as they lifted Reese out and he took his first wailing breath, Samantha looked at the clock, which was right in front of her, on the wall in front of her. It was one of these huge big wall clocks. And sure enough, the second hand was ticking to the exact time that she was given, that her boy, my darling boy, was born. So, yes, of course, there are times when because we want something so badly, we try to make it happen, or on a subconscious level, we try to make it happen. But there are times when the inevitable happens. There are times when a child is born, the right time, the right date, the exact moment when God decides. How it works, I don't know. How does the spirit world decide when this person should be born or when this person should die? I don't know the answers to all of those things, but I do know absolutely in my heart of hearts that we can see into the future. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not so good. But in my case, it was all about the boy. It was all about my darling boy, making him safe, making my daughter safe, making the pregnancy safe, and him arriving at the exact moment that God had decided that he would. That's it. The end. Chris, how you doing?
Great. You should see all the comments, Rosemary. You've got people saying, boy, I got chills. Wow. Maggie saying, did you pack a bag for her?
No, no, she was rushing me out of the door. But sure enough, we had to go back and get one. She was so mad with me. I don't quite know why she was mad with me, but mother's right again, that frustration and so on. And she was very sick prior to, sort of through that whole night of waiting and wondering and so on. She was very, very sick. But as soon as she had the baby, they, were able to take her off the drugs that were making her sick. And she survived and re-survived. And they're all absolutely well and healthy. So we had a fabulous and a wonderful result. But yes, is it possible to see into the future? I hope that my story inspires you all to believe that no matter what we do in life, there are some things that are inevitable, and it's not anything that we necessarily did to cause an issue. The only thing that I feel that the more and more I learn about this stuff, the more and more I know. I think that really one of the few things that we do have control over in our lives is our attitude. And I think that we, although the universe might control so many other things that happen to us and so many other experiences that we are meant to have in life, our attitude is our choice. We can decide to be positive and, really sort of work on our attitude and stay as positive as we can. And we all know how hard that can be sometimes. Or we can choose to have an attitude of woe is me and good luck with that. So let's have some of those comments, Chris, and let's hear how people enjoyed the story, and then we can go into some questions. How does that sound?
That's great. Maggie had also said, in the knowing of what you knew, is it more in preparation than it is telling the future because specifics are not given, just information?
Yes, I think that's right, Maggie. I think I remember saying to a client of mine once, she looked perfectly well, perfectly healthy. There was not an issue with her, but her loved ones in the spirit world came through to talk to her through the consultation, and she was told to go to the doctor and very specifically to check in a certain part of her neck and have them check. You could see nothing. There was no swelling. She felt fine. She wasn't stiff in any way. But because I'd been so accurate in so many other things, she obviously went straight to the doctor. And even though there was nothing wrong, she said, I just really want you to check because I have a feeling, is what she said. I have a feeling that there's something wrong with my neck. And sure enough, she had a massive tumor. But it was buried so far inside of her, there was no sign of it on the outside at all. She came back to me, I gave her a healing, and, I said to her, this was one of those moments, sometimes this happens, it's one of those moments when it's not, necessarily predictable that someone is going to die or well, we also, I was going to say, or survive, but whether, you know, whether she will get over it or not. But because of her family, she was told to fight. Because of her family, she was told to do certain other things. And when she came around from her surgery, she remembered my words so clearly. She came back to me and told me I could, as I came out of the surgery, I remember your words, fight like hell, is what I told her. And that's what she did. And she survived. But she had, you know, she had almost half of her neck and a part of her throat taken away. And she would have to wear a brace for the rest of her life. And, you know, it was rough going. She had a couple of years of really tough going there. But had she not been given that information, maybe it would have been too late by the time she got to the doctors, and by the time they found it, maybe it would have been absolutely too late. So yes, when we hear things in the spirit world, they do come to give us hope, they give us help and guidance, and it's their way of taking care of us and looking after us. And so when, for instance, when Gregor told me that Reese would be born on the 12th, I made sure to get on the plane on the 10th. There's no way I was going to miss it. And so I got on the plane on the 10th. We went to the hospital for a checkup on the 11th, and Reese was born on the 12th, which was a couple of weeks before he should have been born. But everything was fine in the end. So yes, Maggie, you're right. Yes, Chris.
The other comments, Jolly Voyager says, it's such a blessing of you to share this gift.
Thank you.
Nanny saying, an awesome story, love it. Kitty saying, thanks, Doc, thanks, Doc, thanks, Doc.
Okay.
So that pretty much sums up the comments about this story. You've got a lot of people on. Let's see, we've got Mexico, Scotland, Italy, and obviously many places around the United States of what people are sharing. England.
Yes, and we would, by the way, all of you, while I think about it, and you mentioned sharing, Chris, if you enjoyed this show, this little show that we put on for you, if you could share it with all of your friends on Facebook, if you could share it out there into the world, we'd love that, because, you know, there are other people who perhaps would never even think to tune into us, or perhaps don't even know about us, and your sharing it with them might give them some hope and inspiration as well. So share. Okay, Chris, keep going.
All right, so the first question is, will we see an end to this pandemic anytime soon?
It's a great question. I must have answered it 1 trillion times before, so I'm only going to say this one. So as much as I understand that you're all worried, that you're all concerned and so on, as much as I know all of that, this is the one and only question I'm going to take about the pandemic, Chris. So I know people are worried about it, but it's already getting so much better. And if, you know, if the media were to put it out there, the honest truth of the matter, you would see that there's so much less to be worried about now than there ever was. I don't believe one single word of what is being told to us about this pandemic. I think it's not nearly as bad as people are saying it is, except there are certain areas where, yes, it may well be. Regardless of how long it goes on, we will have a cure for it very soon. And regardless of how we feel about it, it will be at some point in the future very much like the influenza, which, did you know that the influenza bug still will kill thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world every single year? We don't talk about it anymore. We've come to terms with it. We have certain things that we can do. We have certain medications that we can take. And this is going to be just another of those things. When influenza first was discovered, it was the same thing. Everybody was terrified. Everybody was worried. But we are dealing with it. We deal with it every day. The fact that thousands and thousands of people are susceptible and, you know, I'm talking around the world. I'm not talking thousands of people in your town. I'm not talking thousands of people in your country. I'm talking about thousands of people around the world. But yet, influenza is not now considered a pandemic, and the same will be for COVID. It will be something that we will deal with, that they will find certain cures for, and certain people will still be affected by it, but the majority of us will not be. So please, please, everybody, don't panic. Please, hold on to your sanity. For all of you parents out there who are having to deal with the awful situation, especially in New York City, where apparently the teachers in New York City think that they are the primary. We should all make room for them. I'm back at it, Chris. I'm sort of, but it's just, the doctors go on the undergrounds. They go, the doctors, the nurses, the bank, the people in the banks, the people in the stores, the grocery stores. I mean, how do the teachers think that they get to work every day? And they're with the public every day, and especially in our hospitals, in our care facilities. I'm sorry, all of you. I'm so sorry for all of you teachers out there who don't agree, who would love to be back at work and love to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I know there are so many of you, but it's so often it is the insistent and the minority voices that shout the loudest, so they get the most attention. And apparently the trade union here in New York has caved to the teachers, and if it were me, I'd fire them all. And let's have people in there who want to work and who want to go out, regardless, as everybody else has to do. As everybody else has to do. Thank goodness our doctors and our nurses didn't say, "Oh, I'm not going to get on the underground. Too bad. You can all die. I'm not putting myself at risk." Thank goodness. Just the people in the grocery stores. Thank goodness they didn't say, "I don't care if you don't have bread or milk today. Nothing to do with me." Thank goodness the majority of people are stepping up. I'm off that subject. Don't talk to me anymore about COVID, because it just gets me riled up. And I don't want to get riled up. Just told you a fantastic and a wonderful story. Chris.
Well, we can get ourselves riled up in the opposite way about how many great things we've discovered about ourselves during this time.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
All right.
Go.
So Tara's on.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rosemary. I have been struggling for work and to make ends meet since a cancer diagnosis a few years ago.
Oh.
I'm a writer, and some of my writing is beginning to do well. Do you see this as a good path for me?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited for you. Why are you asking a question you know the answer to? You've got to keep going. You've got to have faith in yourself. You've got to trust in yourself, because obviously you have a talent. So use it and stop feeling inhibited. And, the best writers write about what they know, what they understand, even if it's, even if they fictionalize it. But the best writing comes from your heart and your own experiences. And I do get the feeling, and Gregel is confirming for me, I do get the feeling that, that you are still a little reticent about your heart and your experiences. You're still a little reticent to share those. That will be when you really, really do really well. So take it, dive in, jump into that water. You will swim. I promise you, you will not drown. You will swim, but you have to let out your, discover and dig deep for your own emotions, and don't be afraid to share them, because that's what makes writing. That's what will make writing special. Any book that you read, I read a lot. I read every day. I pick up a book every single day. The books that make me want to pick up my Kindle, which I love, the books that make me want to reach out for them, take them to the beach or whatever, those are the books that touch my heart. And they touch my heart because I know that the writer somehow or another knows about, if they're writing about the pain and devastation of their characters, they know something about it. If they're writing about love and hope and so on. They know something about it. They put themselves into it. So go for it. Stop holding back. Chris.
Darinka is on.
Good morning.
Hello, I would like to know if I have a message for my husband from his mother, who passed away 3 years ago and has not been able to overcome his loss. Thank you very much. Happy weekend.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear this from you. I actually don't. I would love to be able to just give you some small thing. I'm looking to Gregor right now, and I wish we had more time for this. But what I feel that your husband needs, and please don't think I'm touting for your business here, because I'm not. I have more than I can cope with. But if you know of a good medium, if you can find someone who is honest, what he needs to do is he needs to either talk to a grief counselor. Doesn't have to be a medium, doesn't have to be psychic, anything at all, but talk to a good counselor, talk to a good grief counselor for him, or if he goes to see someone like myself who is real, I'm stressing, who is real, then he will get his answers that way too. In the meantime, here is a message from both myself and Gregor, is don't tell him, don't despair. She is with you. Next, Chris.
Maggie saying, I've been drawing houses, buildings, and landscape. She wrote this at the same time you were talking about you drawing your home.
Okay.
Gray Eagle, what do you think?
Well, it's a funny thing that you should say this, Maggie, and very briefly, because we do have lots of questions to get through, I know. It's funny you should say this, because I was talking to my students this week about automatic writing, and one of our seminars is going to be talking to people about the things that we can do to connect with the spirit world, which is going to be our first webinar. I know it says about mediumship, but it's really about how can I help you all to connect with your own soul and with your loved ones in the spirit world. Do you need to go and see a medium, or can you do this by yourself? And so automatic writing, using different techniques, you can get the spirit world to connect with you, to communicate with you. We can all do it to some degree or another, and there are certain tools and certain things that you can use and that you can learn about to help you to do this. So Maggie, when you were doing these drawings, were you connected? So I'm throwing it back at you, because if you were, pay attention, because you know it's amazing what we can see up ahead of us for our future. Chris.
Elizabetta's on.
Morning, Elizabetta.
May I know if my beloved grandmother Anna has something to tell me? I can never dream of her, unfortunately. She was and will be the most important person for me.
I was actually going to say just the same thing I just told the other lady. I wish I had more time to do this for you, but having said that, I am getting an image of a lady, an older lady, who I feel very strongly is with you. Whether this is your grandmother or not, I'm not sure. My guess and a reassuring hand on my shoulder from Gregor tells me yes, it is. So I'm going to say to you in this sort of very vague way, I'm sorry to be so vague about it, but I do feel, and I know that you know this, so why am I saying this to you? Why am I telling you something you know already? She's so close to you and so protective of you, as she always was and will always be with you. Chris.
Cheryl's on. When I was 12, my parents burned our home for insurance.
Ooh.
I have been anorexic, alcoholic, and overcame these issues. I want my parents who have passed to know I have forgiven them. Does it help them?
Well, what is this lady's name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Good morning, Cheryl, first of all. My darling, what an awful, awful situation that you've found yourself in. And, you know, it is amazing. And I'm glad that you mentioned this to me, because things that happen to us in our childhood, things that happen to us that we have no control over, for instance, your parents doing what they did, can have really, really lasting effects on us, causing anxiety, causing us to be unsure of ourselves, causing us to feel less than we are. So I know that all of your issues and all of your problems have stemmed from perhaps not just the fire, but other things that your parents did. Forgiveness is an odd thing. I think that accepting them for who they were and who they are now, I will definitely tell you that it's very helpful to those in the spirit world to be able to say, I love you and I accept you, and if you want to, and I forgive you. I think it's extremely helpful, and certainly will be very helpful to your parents, because they obviously are having to deal with what they did. They're obviously having to deal with not just what they did in setting the house on fire, but what they did to all of you who they were supposed to nurture and supposed to love and supposed to care for. They must have been in a pretty desperate situation to do what they did. So let's not be too harsh on their actions. We don't know the whole story, but I think that being able to accept and to still love one's parents or those people who have done you harm, I think is a huge healing for them. But what a huge healing for you. So keep being strong. Keep getting better. Keep doing more and more of what you're doing, my love. Yes, Chris.
Sunshine Moon is on.
Good morning.
Love your stories. We all have family stories. Some are true, and over years, some have grown.
Yeah.
Due to early passings, divorce, etc., I would like to clear one. Do I have a grandfather that was Indian?
That's not, you'd think it was a simple yes or no, wouldn't you? That's not such an easy question. I feel that you do have somewhere in your ancestry, perhaps a grandfather, who certainly had some different blood. So I think the story you've been told has been exaggerated, but there is a basis for it. I hope that helps you. Chris.
Elkie is on.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rosemary. I'd like to know if there's a connection with feeling the chakras, crown chakra and altar major, or between my shoulders, and having a connection with my guardian angel or a spirit guide, for example. If so, maybe you can tell me who is connecting with me in that way.
Well, I don't know what did she say? An altar major or something?
Yeah, I've not heard that term either.
I don't know what you mean by it. So unless you can explain it to me, I can't answer the question, because I only have a part of the information that you're giving to me. I've never heard that term before. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist and isn't real. I'm not all knowing and all seeing as much as most people would think that I am. So you need to explain the term before I can even begin to figure out what it is you're asking me, Chris.
I think I may be able to help slightly. As I'm reading this, she's saying she's getting a feeling between the crown chakra and shoulders, and wants to know if that's connecting with someone, and who would that someone be?
No, then I'm going to say no. I don't think it's connected. I really need more information to answer you correctly. But I'm going to say, for argument's sake, I'm going to say no, or I'm going to say I don't know. How about that? I'll stick with I don't know. I don't have enough information. All right, let's go. Moving on, Chris.
Jolly Voyager says, will I be in a happily committed relationship in the near future?
Well, will you? will you give it a chance? Will you open yourself to it? Will you allow yourself to trust again? Will you be able to set aside all the hurts and the pains that you've had in the past, my darling? Again, I think it's inevitable, because we're talking about the future, right? It is inevitable that you will meet someone. It's also inevitable that the possibilities of it being something really wonderful and really special are very high. But whenever there's a tendency, right, for us, we all do it. We come out of a relationship which is awful, and we go into the next one, and then we have a tendency to judge the new person by the actions of the old person. We judge the new by the actions of the ex. And so I'm going to say be careful, because it's so easy for us to ruin what is potentially a fantastic and a wonderful relationship. So I will tell you that you will definitely have the potential for this to happen. Will you ruin it, or will you be willing to talk things through? Will you be willing to understand that you can't judge one person's actions from what you've experienced from another? I feel from when I'm talking to you, I feel that there's been a time when you've been very deeply hurt. Can you let those hurts and pains go? Can you allow a new person to come in and not allow them to be tainted by the hurts and the actions of other people that have been in your life before? Chris.
Mark is on.
Good morning, Mark.
Love from Tulsa. Rosemary, I first saw you in 1997 on the Oprah show as you first shared your book, The Eagle and the Rose.
Yes.
I purchased the book too. I believed in you from that moment on, and knew one day I'd eventually hear and see you like we are now. I have terrible heart and cancer issues, but I am planning to retire August of 2023. Does Gray Eagle, with your assistance, see me being financially able to retire and still be able to keep my home/mortgage? Oh, and I'm still fighting on my furnace issue.
Well, keep fighting, Mark. The answer is from Gray Eagle. Even as you were talking, and even as you were telling us all of these things, the answer comes right back from Gray Eagle, without a doubt. So I think you'll be okay. We'd be very happy to put you on our healing list if you'd like us to do that for you. Just let us know, and it'll be done. So we'll be sending you healing as well. But you have such a brilliant attitude, you're such a great joy to have on our show, and you sort of your soul shines out. So, and I think that must be obvious to so many people who know you. So the answer from Gray Eagle, even as you were asking all of these questions, and I know you must be worried, he's saying, oh, without a doubt, so almost flippant. I'm so glad that you like The Eagle and the Rose, because I always advise people, if in doubt, read The Eagle and the Rose and see what you think of that, because it really is my first but most wonderful, I think, the most beautiful book. Right, Chris.
Maggie said children do not want to admit parents are right, even when the parent is not like Rosemary. My daughter told me I was right, but made me promise not to ask on what. Still don't know to this day.
Oh, that's so funny. That is so funny. Well, we don't want children who are so passive and don't dare speak up to us, do we? And I know that Samantha was feeling really horrible and really awful. I mean, she had eclampsia. They were giving her drugs that made her feel really terrible. I'm just pleased that she felt that she was able to shout at me and sort of take her aggressions out on me, because isn't that what mummies are for anyway? And I was glad to do it, and I was happy to do it. I know that she shares all of her pains with me. Sometimes she shares way too much, but then you see, I remind her of it later, and then she kicks herself for telling me things that perhaps she really wishes that she hadn't told me. So we have a really close relationship, Maggie, and I'm sure you and your daughter have a close relationship as well. It must have really hurt her to say that you were right, but I'm laughing about her not telling you what you were right about. Just imagine, Maggie, just sort of take it as really, although daughter did not want to say this to you, what she's really saying to you is, you were right about everything. How about that? Chris.
Kitty's on.
Hi, Kitty.
Can we will something to happen in our lives?
Well, yes, Kitty, this is what we were talking about when we're talking about self-fulfilling prophecies. You know, if someone tells you something, and I've told this story before about one of my patients who, I knew this person quite well, he was given 3 months to live. He was told he had cancer. He got 3 months to live, and so that was it. And he went home, put himself to bed, and started dying. Couple of months later, when the doctor visited him to have to admit, I'm sorry, there's another guy, same name, we got you mixed up, you're the one with the ulcer, he's the one with cancer, he's already gone, you're still here, you don't have cancer, you have an ulcer. And fortunately the doctor was in time to save this man from killing himself, because the thought of the cancer and the thought of having this illness were what actually drove this man to just give up. So, look, just because the doctor tells you something is, doesn't mean it is, does it? Just because somebody like me tells you something is, if you don't want it to be, fight it. I'm all for being your own advocate, but yes, we can, in fact, our own will can cause our downfall if we let it. Chris.
Nanny's on. Good morning.
Good morning.
I enjoyed the story. My question: my sister passed in 2016. Since her passing, my dad was heartbroken and missing her on the earth plane. He passed in October of 2019. I'm wondering if my sister and dad are together.
No, you're not. You know perfectly well they are. You're looking for confirmation, and of course, why wouldn't you? And I can honestly tell you, of course they're together, and just apparently having a great time. I'm hearing a man's voice. I'm presuming, never presume, but I'm presuming, because we're short on time here, that this is your father who's saying, literally wanting you to know that they're kicking up their heels and having a party. Apparently there's some good news coming, some really good family news coming, and I think it's about a baby. Oh my goodness, I'm giving you far more than I thought I was going to give you. But yes, my darling, I think you know that they are. You're just looking for confirmation, so I hope I've been able to give that to you. Chris.
Barbara's on.
Hi, Barbara.
Do you have a message from Karen?
No, not at this moment in time, but keep trying. Chris?
Bright Star says, although I have not seen anyone from the spiritual world, I am quite sure that my sister watched over me when I was in the clutches of a dark soul. I have been so lucky over and over again and think she saved my life. Thanks to you, I have come to see and believe this. Lots of love.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so glad that you know and that you acknowledge how much your sister cares for you and how much she's with you and does protect you, because our loved ones in the spirit world, I mean, they have a difficult job. I know they have a difficult job with me, because if somebody says to me, you can't do that, I'm immediately thinking, why not? Why can't I? Of course I can if I put my mind to it. I know that Gregor has a difficult time with me sometimes, because I don't always listen as I should, and the rest of us, we don't always listen, do we, as we should. We don't pay attention as we should, and then we get ourselves into fixes. So I'm really glad, Bright Star, that you're taking that time to look and to listen for your sister, and to acknowledge, and to acknowledge the fact that she's there, she's with you, and she's definitely protecting you and keeping you safe. Yes, Chris.
I just want to give you the heads up that it's 12 o'clock right now.
Okay, we have a couple more questions, and I know it's our holiday weekend for everybody, so we'll do the best we can.
Okay. Anne Marie is asking, how do I become unblocked? I feel like there's something blocking me, but not sure what and how to unblock myself.
Anne Marie, I feel the same way. I feel that you are blocking your own self. And I think that, there's a lot of fear going around at the moment, isn't there? We're afraid of COVID. We're afraid of getting sick. We're afraid that we're going to lose our job. We're afraid that not going to have any money. And it's this collective fear, which is far more powerful than sort of, the normal run of things. This is enormous collective fear going around the world, and it's infectious, should I say? It's infectious, and I think it's in some ways has it infected you a little bit, and as it's probably infected most of us. But I think that you've for some reason or another you've lost the faith and the trust in yourself that you used to have. I think that a little bit of meditating and a little bit of talking to yourself and telling yourself you can do things and that you're not, that things are not nearly as bad for you as you think they are. I would say if you can find a yoga group or a meditation group to go to, that would be one way of you being able to get back to your own self, because I think it's you who are blocking yourself. And I think that once you release the fear and once you breathe, and there's a saying, let go and let God, and I think, darling, this is where you need to be. You need to be in that place of being able to let go and let God, and then you'll find that you'll start to flow and your energy will start to flow again as it should. Chris?
Gabriella's on from Mexico.
Hi, Gabrielle.
And she's used the Google Translate, so I'm going to say it a little bit differently than it's typed out. Okay. So Gabriella's having dreams of her mother, but her mother is younger than she was when she died. So could you speak to that?
Yes, fabulous. Well, thank you for using the Google Translate. Yes, very often we do see people in the spirit world much younger than they looked prior to their passing. Sometimes the burdens and the worries and the woes, the illnesses and so on and so forth, they do age us, don't they? And so, when we leave, we are relieved of not only the physical torments that we often have to suffer, but we're also relieved of the emotional torments and the emotional traumas that have weighed us down, sometimes that have weighed us down for years. So it could well be that you're seeing your mother rejuvenated, let go of all of the issues. And Grey Eagle is saying to me, what you're seeing here is your mother at peace. So I hope that helps you, darling. Yeah, Chris?
Erin's asking, do you recommend anything for people moving into a new apartment, such as renewing or clearing the energy?
Yes, I always think personally, I think it's a good thing, because they say the walls have ears, but walls also have energy, and walls are able to absorb the energy of those people who have been in that place prior to. So I always think it's a good idea. Excuse me. You can go on Google and look to see how you can cleanse your apartment. You can use sage sticks to do it. You can have a priest come in to bless it. There are lots of different ways that you can just clean it out and bring renewed health and well-being to the building. I actually was speaking to someone on Thursday about the fact that you can actually heal the building by giving it your good energy. So bringing in positive energy, bringing in good energy. You can do this by yourself if you light a few candles, get a nice a guided meditation. You can get one of mine. Simply go to wherever it is to get them, iTunes and all the rest of it. You can go and get nice guided meditation. You can invite friends in who can be, who are with you and can be very positive about this and bringing good energy and bringing joy and light into the place. Or if you want to go that little extra step, you can, in fact, as I've suggested, get some sage sticks, do what the Native Americans used to do for cleansing. It's very easy to do. You can buy actually sage sticks. You can buy them on, I'm sure you can get them on Amazon if you want to, and just take notice of the rituals, or if you know someone who can do it for you, by all means have them come in and cleanse it. But I do think it is a good idea because, you know, new house, you know, this used to say new house, new baby. Well, new house, new energy. So get that new energy flowing and get it, make sure that it's good energy that you're surrounded by. I think that's it, Chris, for today. Unfortunately, I do hope you like my story today. I talked about guided meditations, and yes, you can get all of mine either on iTunes, or the first one is Give the Gift of Healing. You can get them on iTunes or anywhere that does that sort of thing. You can, if you need to know more about any of my books, email me, rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com. If you want to be put on my healing list, absolutely do the same thing. Let's see, what else is there, Chris? Save the date, the 24th of October, because we are planning on having our first webinar. We'll let you have more information on that as soon as we've booked it, which is very soon. Chris is working very hard on that, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
And what else is there to say? So books, tapes, if you need a consultation, you'd like to know more about the consultations that I give, again, email me and I'll give you the final email, rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com. You can email me there, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Michelle, my assistant, is on a very regular basis answering all of the emails. If we don't answer them quickly enough for you, please don't complain to us. We just, you know, we've got a very small office and we do the best that we can. So just give it time. If you haven't heard from us within a week to 10 days, by all means email us and remind us that you sent us an email, or just simply send the email again. We will get back to you, I promise you that. So anything that you want from us, or anything more that you'd like to know from us, again, please email us, and we'll do our very best to help you out. We hope that you've enjoyed the show today. I would like to say thank you to all of you for joining us. I know we never have enough time for the questions, which is why we're doing the webinars, because the webinars will last longer and we'll have more content and you'll have opportunities to ask questions and so on and so forth. So again, save the date of the 24th of October. That will be our first webinar. I'll show you what do you do if you, number one, don't know of a good medium, number two, can't afford a good medium, number three, can we do it ourselves? Do we need a medium anyway? Connecting with the spirit world, how can we do it? What are the different ways that we can try? Automatic writing is one of those ways, meditation is, and on it goes. And we're going to be talking about those things in our webinar. And what exactly is a medium anyway, and what do they do, and why do they do it, and how do they do it? Oh, if only I knew the answer to that one. But how do they do it, and what goes on in a medium's mind, and what goes on in a medium's life? So we're going to be talking about all of those fabulous things when we do our webinar on the 24th. We're hoping to have a translator also for those of you who you know, or you can again go to Google. We'll try and figure it out for you anyway and let you know. So please, 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 it's a holiday here in the States. What is it, Chris?
Labor Day weekend.
Thank you. I never can remember. Labor Day weekend. I don't even know what that means, but everybody who has holidays, thank goodness again for the hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, the stores that stay open for us, all the people who work in the stores. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you out there who have been doing such a fantastic job and have not really been recognised as you should be. We do thank you. We do appreciate you for all of that. If you're on a vacation weekend, if you're lucky enough to have the 3-day vacation, have a wonderful vacation. If you're not, have a wonderful weekend anyway. Please have a very, very blessed rest of the day. I shall see you again on a Thursday, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 4 p.m. in the afternoon for my lovely darlings in England, and Scotland and Wales and Ireland and all of you over there. I should say the British Isles, shouldn't I? We should be taking questions and answers. We should be doing more of this, and we shall look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, please, please, please have a very blessed rest of the day, and please, all of you out there, stay safe, drive safe, be safe, have a very, very blessed rest of the weekend.